Back live with you tonight. Thanks for staying on. Now, the official opposition, Democratic Alliance, gearing up for its elective federal Congress this Saturday and Sunday. This happening in Midrand at the Gallagher Convention Center. The three-horse contest for the federal leadership position started to be between incumbent John Steenhuisen and former City of Johannesburg Mayor Dr. Mpho Phalatse. Well, it's now a two-horse race, really. On Sunday, South Africans will know who the face of the Democratic Alliance will be heading to the much-anticipated 2024 general elections, where analysts predict the governing ANC will, for the first time, fail to garner above 50% of the vote. For more on this, we're now joined by the contender and former City of Johannesburg Executive Mayor, Dr. Mpho Phalatse. Good to have you. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Thabo. Good evening to you and your viewers.
Well, if the Democratic Alliance doesn't have a downright majority, we're going to have what we just saw happening now in the City of Johannesburg, which you know very well, because you wouldn't be sitting here right now. You'd probably still be a mayor, and maybe, I don't know if you would still be interested in being the leader of the Democratic Party at national level. But you've got either a party that holds one seat or a party that holds 3 seats now actually running the cities. But if you look at South Africa's demographics right now, do you think the DA will be able to at least achieve some kind of full-on mandate to govern the majority of South Africans?
I believe it's possible. I believe it's doable. I believe that this weekend's Congress is crucial because the electorate have raised some concerns, whether legitimate or not. We do need to address those concerns. And one of the concerns I've picked up on the ground is the trust deficit that exists between the electorate and the party. The reason I put my hand up is because I believe I can help us bridge that gap. I believe that with the right leader in place, we can garner the right support to offer our citizens an alternative, a credible alternative to the ANC in 2024.
Yeah. I mean, we look at that story, and unfortunately with what happens in the Democratic Alliance is that there's some 2,000 delegates who are going to decide your fate. As the public, unlike the ANC, we are not let into the reality of how you guys are campaigning and what are some of the issues that you are raising. But if the media reports, for example, are to be believed, there are some who believe that you are a novice in politics in the party. What do you say to that?
Well, I've heard that. Look, it's not the length of time in a party that determines your level of effectiveness. I joined the DA in 2015. In 2016, I was sworn in as a councillor. A few weeks later, I was sworn in as an MMC. For 3 years under the Herman Mashaba administration, with real outputs and a real large-scale impact in society in that short space of time. I remained a PR councillor for 2 years, put my hand up to be mayor, and I was elected mayor. And I was mayor for 13 months. So in the short stint I've had in the party, not so short, it's about 8 years, short according to other people's measure, I've managed to be very effective, and I've done a lot, and I've got a lot to show for it. There's people who've been in the party much longer than me who cannot show half of what I've done. I don't believe that it's the length of time. It's what you do with that time. I entered politics at an advanced stage in my career. I learned a lot and picked up a lot of skills outside politics, in public service. I brought those skills in politics. I came in ready, and that's why I could be a successful MMC. I believe I'm ready, having governed a 9-party coalition government in the City of Johannesburg. Very difficult, very complex. I believe that trained me and set me up for this kind of role as federal leader of the DA. Being leader of a political party is not a position in and of itself. There's many linkages to governance. We've got many areas where we govern at municipal level. We govern in the Western Cape. We would like to govern nationally. Much of our policies have not been implemented yet because we've never governed nationally. And unfortunately, we get judged on those policies, even though we've never implemented that. I believe that we've got a real chance now to showcase that our policies actually work, and I would like to lead the party into that phase.
Yeah. Those who are being brutal at you particularly, they'd say part of the fact why you are not mayor right now is because you are not politically strong. So, for example, you couldn't push your way through in terms of what you understood needed to happen at regional level. Because you are the mayor of the City of Johannesburg. You knew the compromises that needed to be done and what needed to happen for the Democratic Alliance to hold on to that seat. But you couldn't sway your party.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Tanya Campbell was just ousted today. We've seen many oustings in other parts of the country. It doesn't work like that. It's not up to the mayor what happens. Unfortunately, yes, in the Democratic Alliance, you've got the FedEx on the one hand. They are the highest decision-making body within the party. And I made representations to the FedEx on more than one occasion on what I believed should have happened. And we deliberated and we ended up where we ended up. So it doesn't mean that one is not politically strong. It may just be that, you know, the balance of power needs to be reassessed, which is another thing that is really crucial to me on this race. I would like to see the voice of the people on the ground be stronger than the people at FedEx who are not necessarily in touch with the issues on the ground. And I believe that with the right leadership, we can begin to see that kind of move.
Yeah, but that FedEx, I mean, remains pretty much the same. Largely white, if you want to put it that way. We heard Helen Zille yesterday saying, well, almost she's guaranteed that she's getting back into her position. Do you see Mpho Phalatse being able to sway Helen Zille in the way that she thinks, to think like Mpho Phalatse?
Well, Helen Zille is not a dictator in the Democratic Alliance. She is the chair of the Federal Council. She works with other people. There are many new entrants that I see now put their hands up for various positions. That excites me. I'm seeing diversity in the number of candidates that have put their hands up. So I do believe that we will end up with a beautiful mix of young and old and people from diverse backgrounds, diverse skills as well as experience. The mayor of Mogale City has put his hand up for one of the deputy positions. That's quite exciting. Got MMC in Cape Town put their hands up. So I really think we're going to end up with a very strong leadership after this Congress.
Yeah. So when you started this race, you were three. It was the three of you gunning for this position of the leadership of the party. Why now there's only two? I mean, I'm asking that because there are some reports that are indicating, for example, that during your debate, which us as the public are not privy to, but you raised issues of John Steenhuisen and how he treats other leaders in the party. Is that the reason why other leaders fall off this race?
So, firstly, I'm not at liberty to discuss the debate. Our debates are internal, and so I won't discuss the debate. Secondly, there was a third contender for the role, Lungile, who has also put her hand up for various other roles. In fact, I saw her yesterday at Gallagher Estates, and she's still contesting other roles. I think she only stepped down from 2, as far as I'm aware. And I didn't ask her why she decided to step down from this one. I'll ask her next time. I think it's a question that we should ask her. I shouldn't put words in her mouth or speculate as to why she retreated on these 2.
Yeah, but there are other leaders who have, I suppose, left the party, and it can be debated why. Others are saying they were facing disciplinary processes and things that were discovered about them and so on and so forth. Why would you particularly be looking at a situation where there are certain leaders of color who are particularly coming out in a way that is not nice? You know, when they come out, there's a bit of a fight that seemingly is happening in the public space.
It's never easy when a leader leaves any political party, regardless of race, regardless of the dynamics. We saw Bongani Baloyi leave Action SA not so long ago. That was not a pleasant experience. So that's the nature of politics. People leave and people come and go all the time. What I always say is that in the Democratic Alliance, we've seen white people leave as well. We've seen Ethel Trollip leave, and nobody talks about that. We talk about when black leaders leave. And I also find that there's racist undertones when it's expected that because I'm black, I will follow the narrative or the trajectory of black leaders leaving the party. I'm an independent human being. I've got my own agency. I've got my own way of responding to situations. And where I believe that there's a need for growth, there's a need to adapt in certain areas, I would rather be part of the team that turns the ship around as opposed to leaving. Besides, currently, I don't have an alternative. If I left the Democratic Alliance, where would I go?
Yeah. One of the Twitter followers of the channel yesterday, when we were having this conversation with an analyst around the Democratic Alliance and, of course, your elective conference taking place this weekend, he says the Democratic Alliance is having a challenge of wanting to be a liberal party, but that leans more towards being conservative.
I don't agree with that. I don't think we're conservative at all. We are the most diverse party in the country. I believe that we're very accommodating in the diversity of people who are in the party, whether it's race, whether it's religion, whether it's sexual orientation. In the Democratic Alliance, you find people from all walks of life. So I do believe that we are very liberal. I believe we're the most liberal party in South Africa, and that's why I'm in the Democratic Alliance.
Yeah. And how are you going to navigate your way around this question of privilege, which many believe possibly would have been the undoing of Mmusi Maimane when he started speaking rather strongly and attacking what is called white privilege, and that became the undoing of his time at the Democratic Alliance?
We are a country that still needs to heal. The reality is that the ANC has wasted their 29 years in government. They failed to lead this nation through its healing process. They failed to implement meaningful redress. As a result, South Africans are still wounded. We are still a sensitive people. You've got to watch what you say. It's difficult. And I understand why there'll always be those kinds of sensitivities. I believe that the way to resolve this is meaningful redress. It's firstly by admitting the ills of the past, and if you go on our website, you'll see that the Democratic Alliance actually recognizes the injustices of the past and proposes ways to undo them. A lot of those policies would need us to govern at a national level for us to be able to implement them, and I'm hopeful this time around that we'll be able to do that. But yes, I also recognize that we must walk with people, recognizing where they are, and we must be very sensitive in what we say.
Yeah. And do you think that redress can be achieved without paying some particular attention to the race question?
I don't think that you can decouple the two. I think if you look at who the previously disadvantaged are, the majority of them will be black people. How the DA proposes to resolve this or to bridge the gap, the inequality gap, or to start moving people up the social gradient, is that we do means testing. Means testing is a scientific approach to assessing where a person is in terms of their socioeconomic status, and then you assess the type of support they require from government for their social mobility. Now, I had the opportunity as MMC for Health and Social Development in the city to be responsible for the expanded social package, which used pretty much the same approach. In order for you to access the package of benefits that were afforded people on our indigent register, you had to bring proof. You had to register, you had to prove you're a South African citizen, number one. You had to prove your level of income. You had to prove where you live, who you live with, and what is the household income, and so on. That was a scientific method of establishing whether people deserve to access certain opportunities or not. That's what means testing is now. If you look at our indigent register and you look at who benefits the most from the expanded social package, you'll find that invariably a lot of the vast majority will be black people. But you will find the odd white family here, colored families, and so on. And that's really what the Democratic Alliance is saying, that people are a lot more complex than just race. You need to use a scientific approach, because what you don't want to do is have a black elite like we've seen created by the ANC since 1994, where the same people who are politically connected benefit over and over again.
Yeah. So if we come out of this Congress this weekend, and I suppose you think you're well capable as a black female leader in the party, but you do not make it as a leader of the Democratic Alliance, would that mean you were the least qualified at the time to lead the party?
Well, we would need to ask the 2,000 delegates, won't we? People vote for different reasons. Some people feel that, you know, it's better to keep things stable. It's better to stay with what we know. Other people believe we need change. We need to do something different. If you look at our growth trajectory over the past years, we can do so much better considering our good governance brand. And that is really my value proposition. There's people who agree that we need to grow. We deserve to grow. South Africa deserves preserve the DA government, and that if we bold in this Congress and we allow ourselves to try something new, we can become that credible alternative to take South Africa forward.
Yeah, well, one would say that good governance brand is in a bit of shaky ground these days. If we speak of the Democratic Alliance, there's a 10 billion rand situation in the city of Tshwane with Randall Williams. There's Malusi Boy. There are a couple of other issues that have emerged around governance within the Democratic Alliance. So the good governance brand itself is not fully intact.
Well, first of all, I don't think I remember Randall Williams being charged of anything. I know what happened with Malusi Boy. I think it's still early days. Let's allow processes to unfold. When I talk about a good governance brand, I talk about we know what needs to be done in communities to give a good quality of life to residents, and where we've governed, we've been able to do that. Where there's instances of corruption, we are open to investigation. We don't hide it. We allow the authorities to come in and do the necessary, and should people be found wanting, then people will be charged. But if people are not guilty, then they should be left to go back and serve our communities. That is a good governance brand.
So what happens when Dr. Mpho Phalatse doesn't emerge as the leader of the Democratic Alliance?
Dr. Mpho Phalatse continues in the Democratic Alliance, continues with the vision of growth for the party, taking the party into all communities, urban and rural, making sure the DA is a party for all South Africans, and making sure they rally behind us come 2024 elections.
Right, so we're not going to be hearing you opening your own political party or maybe joining the other scores of parties that are now available.
I think it's a mess what's happening in our country now. I don't think South Africans need more parties. It only leads to confusion, a fragmentation of the electorate. It leads to unstable coalition governments, 9-party, 10-party coalitions. I believe that we should be merging more. I believe we should be identifying parties that are ideologically aligned to ourselves, and we should be consolidating to form stable governments. Whether in coalition or in majority, it shouldn't be large coalitions. It should be manageable coalitions.
Well, we wish you all the best for the weekend, and thank you very much for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that is Dr. Mpho Phalatse, contender for the position of leader of the Democratic Alliance and former City of Johannesburg mayor.